Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All things Middle Earth here with a drama slash season recap video. I've tried numerous times to record this and it just ends up being a lot because there is a lot of behind the scenes Diplo drama stuff that happened. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to summarize an entire season, which is like 2 months into a video, and not have it be hours and hours long, which is what it was kind of turning into. So I'm trying again. I'm going to summarize some bigger highlights with the drama and things and just talk through and try and show you guys what happened as best I can. I don't have screenshots for like a lot of stuff like on the map throughout the season, which I'm going to try and do better for next season because I think a lot of people want to see the progression of the season. And actually, I will put it in there at the very end. We had someone do like a time lapse and show the map every day. So I'm going to put that at the end of the video so you guys can see what the progression of the whole season looked like visually. So I think that was actually WBTO. So shout out to him for putting that together. So I'll have that showing like the time lapse of the map at the end and try and highlight some of the Diplo things, just talk about from my perspective why this season was frustrating or why things happened. And again, at the end of the day, this is my perspective of the events that happened. Everybody's different. Everyone's team's different. And I've gone through and censored all the names out of screenshots because I don't think it does anything to put anyone on blast. I'm not trying to get anyone, more negative attention, but I'm going to show what things happened that I feel are necessary. And this is just my interpretation of those events. So again, I guarantee you every other faction in the server saw this whole situation differently. This is just my version of it. And I cover the game for a living. So I don't know what to tell you other than that. So I'm going to show that again. The further away from it I get, the more I'm almost like, do I even want to do this? Because it's just at the end of the day, it is a game. So this is not meant to be taken as the most serious thing in the world. It was very frustrating in the moment, but at the end of the day, I think people get worked up and stuff happen. So I'm trying to just preface that by just being like, this is what happened, but like, no, I don't want anyone to get hate. And I don't think the more time moves on, this really matters. Like, the season's over. We won. It is what it is. But I know a lot of people have been asking about this. So I feel like I kind of committed to it. And I want to show you guys. So before this gets to be an hour and a half long, let's go ahead and jump in part one, which is us fighting Gondor to start the season. Let's jump into that in just a second. All right, part one. As you can see, I made myself nice little part one things on a slideshow so I can kind of keep myself on track. We'll see if it actually helps or works. But very kind of quick start to the season. We were in Isengard, or we were in Isengard. Season's over, and we attacked Gondor first. Again, I'm in Bag End, so I'm kind of using this map to show, but use your imagination. We're in Isengard. The reason we attacked Gondor, very, very quickly summarized, is there is an individual in Gondor who we thought was in leadership, who I don't think ended up having really anything to do with that. And let's just say we had some very bad experiences with this individual in past seasons, multiple past seasons. In terms of really manipulative, lying, kind of just like really just the things that I dislike the most about diplomacy in this game. This person just like did all those things and always made the seasons very, very difficult. So we saw their name there and we've seen what they've done before. And it was a pretty clear, sorry, like, we're not taking a chance here. We have a shot this season and we're not going to let it get ruined because of someone else kind of pulling some manipulation stuff or whatever. So we went straight for attacking Gondor to start and more or less continued pushing down and got into Anorian, I believe, at like this crossing right here. So we're pushing from over here. We pushed through and we're in their capital region, pushing towards their capital. Again, it's part of the story. I think it's a smaller part in the grand scheme, but at the end of the day, that was actually, we thought that more drama would be had with Gondor because we thought there'd be this past history and stuff trying to happen, and we're trying to deal with that. Ended up being a smaller part, I think, but that is kind of the first step of what happened in the season. Part two, I want to touch on kind of the friendly Northwest we had going at this point. So again, bear with me because we're on the Bag End map. Just to very quickly summarize, basically the Northwest part of the map, starting with us in Orthanc and going, through Loth up to Angmar, Arnor, and Linden. That side was friendly. I wouldn't personally consider them like hard alliances or whatnot, although at the end, it did turn into more of that with some of them. But at the start especially, it was just, hey, we're all over here. I think some of these groups knew that we were bigger and they were like, we don't want to, poke the bear because we're right here. We're already expanding. We're seeming to look decent, at least And so the northwest part of the map was friendly, but it will deteriorate from there, which I'll get into. But that's kind of where that was. At this time, Gondor and Rohan were allied. Rune had not chosen an ally yet, although it ended up being with Variags and Erebor at the end. And I'll get to more because I don't want to spoil it. But for the most part, the Northwest was friendly, and I don't think there was any major war going on aside from Erebor, I think, attacking Rune in the early stages. But that's kind of the start. Just like the Diagon map looks, this is kind of what the Northwest was like in the beginning of the season. Next up, part 3 is our alliance with Rune. Now, in my opinion, this server was kind of this weird triangle. We had a really good group in Isengard, our group. We had a really good group in Rune, and there's a really good group in Gondor. And that's 3, and that means that someone's going to get left out of an agreement that's made, and we didn't want that to be us. So we're trying to figure out how to do things. Rune is kind of staying neutral. I don't know if they were trying to wait to see what happened. Won't say that was the case, but they did stay neutral for a little while, and eventually we came to diplomatic talks. And to summarize it, because it was a little bit longer, we basically ended up getting on a voice call with their leader and another leader who we actually had past season history with, who I'll talk about in a little bit. But we had like one person we knew from past season we had good experience with. So we were like, this makes sense. We felt like we're the kind of the 2 bigger groups in the season, and we knew we would fight each other, but we figured, hey, why don't we kind of deal with our stuff and then have a really good, fun war that lasts hopefully a lot of the season. And let's kind of do that. And from our perspective, we're currently fighting Gondor and maybe a little bit of Rohan, so we're just trying to deal with that. And if there can be an agreement where that happens next after we deal with this stuff, we felt like that was going to be a good move. So we do form an official alliance with Rune. And I will say, in terms of the alliance, the agreements that we talked about on the Discord call, there were 3 things. Number 1, we wanted to be a equal 1v1 because we felt like that was the potential for the best experience for both sides, because the groups looked very, very equal. So we just didn't want anyone to throw that balance off, and we kind of decided, let's let this be the deciding factor for the season. Let's let our groups individually show what they've got, and let the winner be decided that way. That's what we kind of all agreed on. Which, side note, I don't love doing that. I like when things are as organic as possible. But anybody that's done Diplo or played this game knows that you have to always be thinking of things, making deals, doing Diplo, and figuring out how to not be that team that's left out kind of in the cold. Because if you don't, and you're like, no, we don't want to talk to you guys, like whatever, then next situation is they go ally Gondor, and the whole dynamic changes, and I don't know how it would have finished. I think we would have still fought very valiantly, but it just changes it. So you have to think diplomatically, but on a personal note, I don't love when it gets not organic, if that makes sense. So anyway, the 3 things that we talked about with them were, we wanted a 1v1 between our groups. The second thing was we wanted fair and equal land allocation, especially around the ring, because one thing that I have learned playing this game for 10, 13, whatever seasons, I don't know, is that map positioning is important, and it actually controls so much morale, more than I thought. So if you're playing, to me, the ring does not matter at all until the end. You only have to have it at the end. Like, that's how I feel, and it does not matter who holds it. And I've seen lots of groups take it early and not have it at the end. So that's where my head's at. But what I have learned is, maybe, I don't want to say less active, but I would just say some people, when they see someone else take the ring, even if you are a stronger team in a better situation and will take it from them, people lose morale if someone else has the ring, and vice versa. If your team has the ring, people get morale because you have the ring. They feel like they're winning. There's also the side of, if you take the ring, people get less active because they feel like they've won the season. It's like a whole mess around like getting the ring, which actually does not matter until the last day. Like it's really, I don't think it's that significant to do. But again, all that aside, we have learned that positioning around the map, around the ring especially, is very important and crucial to long-term wars. So we wanted a 1v1, we wanted equal map positioning. And the third thing we talked about was just, if there was tensions between our group, we would hop back on a voice call, because you can hear tones. We all seem to get along really well. And it's like, let's just hop back in here if there's an issue, and that'll be fine. Right? Wrong. Not exactly the case. But that was kind of the setup of the Rune Alliance. We're fighting Gondor. We got the friendly Northwest going on. They're kind of trying to solidify their stuff. So it's shaping up to be a very good season, at least thus far. All right, next up is the Gondor surrender. Now, we were making great progress, like I said, on Gondor, and we had, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, I don't think it matters that much. We were at one of the crossings in Anorian, in their capital region, pushing towards their capital. I think at that point we had started to get the levels on them because we were winning the fights, and it was just starting to become a snowball effect type thing, and Gondor was not enjoying it, which I don't blame them. And they kind of came forward and were like, look, this is getting brutal. Our players are really not happy. We want to surrender and concede that you guys have beat us in exchange for keeping our capital and kind of being able to have some kind of season and go fight someone else and yada, yada, yada. And our group likes that. We like to do that kind of stuff that keeps people playing the game, because at the end of the day, if there's no game and we make everyone quit the game, then who are we going to fight, right? So we like when we can come to solutions that allow people to keep playing the game. However, it often and just all the time backfires because groups want to play, they're competitive. I get it. Other deals come along. I get it. But if you don't completely squash groups and take every tile and make them want to quit the game, they will pretty much almost always go back on something, because that's just the way it is. So for now, at least, Gondor did surrender, and I think, made the wrong decision, to be completely honest, although it played out fine, but we let them surrender and keep their capital. In future seasons, what I think I would do is I would say, we accept your surrender and we're going to take your capital, but assuming everything's cool, you guys can have it back at the end, no problem, and you can still go fight people and do stuff. And if that's something they want to do, great. But there's just something about leaving stuff and letting them kind of build up that it always backfires, and it did this season. But Gondor surrendered, so we're in a great spot. We basically have dealt with our side of the map. We've got like these people. I think some of them are PvPing, some of them are fighting up in Ingmar, and Gundabad's pretty empty. And we've kind of beat the first enemy we had, and now are prepping to fight Rune, but our war has not started yet. We've not kind of made that call, but we're in a really good spot, at least thus far. Now, next up is the Rune war starting, and it started in a way that I don't think, from my perspective, a lot of people wanted. This is where I have a little bit more screenshots to show, and I've tried to censor names because I just don't think it's necessary to go through, although it's a lot of editing. And the last time I did this, the person just like named all their forts, like whatever the nickname I put for their muds. So I didn't even put nicknames this time. I just censored them all out. So sorry, we can't have fun nicknames for people because somebody ruined it. You know who you are. But the Rune war starts, and this is the post that I sent right before it started, kind of trying to get the ball rolling because we knew it was coming and it was going to be an awkward shift, and we're all friendly and having a good time. So I said, okay, elephant in the room. This is weird. It's going to be tough. We're obviously friendly and have good history with. There's the individual I mentioned in leadership we have good history with, and we don't want to damage that. However, we are going to have to fight. It's just how the server worked out. I understand you surrounding the ring sort of happened. If it were reversed, we do it too. However, it puts us at a big disadvantage. So at this point, before we fight it, we had talked about the equal map positioning, and I'm not saying they did it intentionally, but just through their advancement, they had completely surrounded the ring, I think, except for Eastbite, which is on their side. They hadn't taken that yet. So they had completely surrounded the ring at that point, just for context for that. So however, it puts us at a big disadvantage. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we transition from ally to, I won't say enemies, but combatants, opponents, etc., playing the game against each other. It's just not an easy transition. I would prefer it to be organic and sort of if we had always been opposed since the server started, as that avoids us having to police our members in a way that, let's be honest, is not all that feasible. Lastly, what do you propose? I think at some point we'll have to just agree we are at war, but how and when it starts should matter, because again, we've been friendly up to this point, and that's how we felt. This is the last part of my message. I said, since you have already taken all the strategically significant territory, I don't think we should be giving up anymore, so I'm unsure how to proceed. I already have people on my team calling for us to attack. Given we want it to be natural, not choreographed fight, I don't want to set a time and place. Rather, I was thinking we might consider that a treaty ends at a certain point, and whether any of us attack at that moment is up to our planning. Just trying to get the ball rolling so we can keep keep the season exciting and all that. Let us know your thoughts when you have time. So just kind of like, hey, I think we just call this off, and then whatever happens, happens. That's kind of what we're proposing. Let's just let things play out and be organic. That is where we're at so far. This is the leader of Rune, and they said, I think we feel similarly on this. The sooner we can start the warring process, the better. I think it's a fair idea to say that starting XXX time, we will end our ceasefire and start the war for the ring. There doesn't have to be any negativity associated with it. I know we are anxious to have some fun. So again, everyone's agreed, yeah, hey, this is good. Let's get started. Let's not be negative. Like, it's very positive, and it's going to go south so soon. And I'll show you some of that, again, as much as I can in less than an hour. And then at a crossing, the war broke out. This is EQ up here who leads the team with me. She says, I see the attack at the crossing has already begun, so I guess we're at war. Again, this is not something that we planned. This is their leader saying, if we want to, or do we want to set a time? If we make the call, we can control it. And I said, not gonna lie, I'm at dinner with my mom and trying to catch up. I was like literally at dinner on my phone, like trying to do this stuff. I said, so sorry for this being less than communicated. I'd like to have made sure we had we were all in agreement, but it sounds like towels were taken on both sides, so people started attacking. And the leader then said, no, it's okay. I think both sides are just excited. And I said, right, if we're all good and just want to let the war start, I think it's good to do so. Just not how EQ or I would have liked to have done it, but someone made a call without us. I then reached out to our other faction mate, which probably should have been said earlier, but this is a huge part of it this season as well. In addition to all the nonsense going on, we had a different group in our faction who we were not associated with. So like anytime you bring a new person into a kingdom or a faction and you've not played together, it's just a whole different can of worms. So we had a group, and this is their leader that I'm adding to ask what their thoughts are if they want to add to this. And again, no shade. I'll just say we are very different groups in Isengard. And so having a different group and different people communicating, it just like the added layers of complexity made this whole thing so much more dramatic. So just a side note, there were other factors going on during all of this stuff, during any conversations or fights, which again made it very interesting. So asking him, and then lastly, this is their leader again here. As I said, if we were to choose, if we all choose, we can set a time for it, maybe tomorrow, or we can rip the band-aid off. But it's at the end of the day for North Americans, so it's not great timing for either of us. Most of our teams being North American, I don't expect huge things at this later hour. Kind of just being like, again, it's almost too late to like put something serious out. I don't think it's going to be a huge brawl breaking out. Let's just do that. Again, EQ there saying I did not want this to start this way. Too many eager beavers out there. Let's rip the band-aid off. I don't think trying to stop anyone at this point is going to lead. It's just going to lead to headaches for anyone involved. And their leader said, you were right, but it's worth a shot. And I said, well, on behalf of Bank, we appreciate how chill everyone in Rune has been, excited for some more action in the server. And they said, we will remain chill and truly appreciate solid fights. Tell your team that my guys appreciate friendly banter upon good fights, and we'll keep the same tone. And that's it. The whole season ended on a really happy, fun note. And there was no frustration or name calling or anything like that. Just kidding. This is a drama video. That would have been the end to a very chill season recap. But things continue and they start escalating a lot, like really getting into it with their leadership. It was a shit show. It was honestly one of the biggest shit shows I've experienced in terms of doing diplomacy with a group. Part 6. Trying to stay on track here. Rising tensions with Rune. Now, I will try and go through these quickly. These are like a bulk of the screenshots I have. And so I want to try and communicate the message of what happened, but I'm also trying to not make this video 7 hours long. So there could be a lot more, and there is a lot more, but I just put like some main things to highlight it, if that makes sense. All right, this is kind of the first bit of the tension. The first thing was that our war had started, but they had not finished up kind of figuring out their end of the map. So they have Loth attacking them and a little bit of Erebor at this point. This is the leader saying Loth has to bugger off. Since this is a shared battlefield or we both attack them, it's putting a strain on the balance. They've uprooted 2 of my players during the day while we were sleeping. And an individual in that team is sitting next to the crossing trying to eat our armies. I then send a screenshot of my whole conversation with the leader of Loth and just said, just trying to be transparent about where we're at. We aren't trying to pull anything. People are just being difficult. So we are like messaging Loth and saying, hey, I know we're friendly, but we're trying to do this 1v1. There's a lot of other groups to fight. Like, are you guys cool with doing that? Because they were a relatively small group at that point, and we were very clear on that. And like, just again, the whole screenshot conversation to their leader that I shared with Rune, and just saying, hey, this is where we're at. Their leader then said, I get it, was just trying to speak with the leader of Loth. He completely ignored me for days, so I attempted to make peace before the fight, but I can't make people speak to me. The war started before everything was settled, so it puts us in a difficult and unfair position of sorts, which I don't agree, and we never ever actually agreed with, like, no, this is fair, guys, which they will like contest that. But like reading through all these, like for the 9th time, we never contested that that's what we wanted or it was fair. But as you saw, we all agreed it's just going to be easier to end this. We had just wrapped up our set of the map and they hadn't, which is now, once that started becoming an issue, the tensions start rising. So I kind of try to offer some, like, here's where we're at, to like add some, I don't know, just like kind of calm things down, because at that time we were not like in full force. So it's not like we were fully attacking them and these things were happening. I said, I agree, but the war also started with us having a fourth of our faction in the area, and we're fighting in neutral territory or territory you have. So we're not fighting in any territory we control, and only about a fourth of our group had moved over yet because we were, again, had recently been fighting Gondor. So I said, so I agree Loth is causing issues, the war starting issues didn't really resolve the fact that you guys 100% have better position for this war. Either way, Loth seems to be setting up for PvP, and hopefully Dant, who's the group you're with, gets here, so it's a 1v1. So our whole fellowship wasn't there. Our other fellowship in our faction wasn't there. We still don't have our equal map positioning, and they're being attacked by Loth, and I think a little bit of Erebor at this point. So like, but I was just trying to express, like, we're not all here. Again, Loth is, they've said yes, we're gonna go fight someone else. So we're like, I think that's gonna resolve itself. And our issue is just like, there's nothing we can do about it. But like, we didn't get to address that either. Again, one of the two main points that we had. So that's kind of the other factions being involved point, which we never minimized or tried to say it wasn't a factor. We're just trying to figure out a fair way to go about that. So this happened at about 3 a.m. This is when it like really ramps up. This is actually the individual who we had really good past season history with. And I won't spend too much time on it, but I just think to show the rising tensions. Again, never had a bad conversation with the person in my life. They're on streams all the time chatting, or they were. And it was just a very cool individual. And the minute things get tough, instead of like, you know, leaning back on any positive things we've had before, accusations just started coming out. The tone really shifted. Again, you could, up to this point, there's really no like language or like anything like that. Again, I don't have a problem with language, and I use language, but when you're talking diplomatically with groups, I feel like some of those more colorful words aren't helpful because everyone hears them differently. And I think we all got that. And up to this point, before this text, nobody had kind of been using that as a way to express their feeling, because it usually gets things hyped up. So this is where it starts. It says, this is pretty much bullshit that Lothlorien is trying to steal SAV from us at the moment. Lothlorien is supposed to be your ally and hasn't done anything but be a thorn on our side, but now turning into a dagger. Then added EQ and I said, we spoke on the call and talked about having no intervention from other factions. But whenever we bring up the fact that we've been getting hit multiple areas, you seemingly don't care. Or do I misread things? Again, never said we don't care. Just trying to figure out, hey, how do we actually do this? Because we also have things that we want. And if we want to talk about fair, we have no territories around the ring and have a lot of ground to cover to get that place that we need to. It's a lot of work. So just that back and forth of like, hey, we're both not happy. How do we make this good? He continues on. I think this is the last one of this. We didn't have to make a deal with Isengard. We could have just played a normal organic season without making any agreement. But we made a deal because we respected your leadership group and wanted to make you all have a fair fight this season. I hope I didn't make a mistake vouching for your integrity, which that one kind of hurt. Like, again, it's just like, I think there's just frustrations going on here. But at the end of the day, we're like just getting into this. This is at 3 a.m. again, still, so I'm asleep. Just bringing up like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have vouched for your integrity. And then again, continuing. Lothlorien players are sieging SAV right now, a small group, but it says 3 players that are strong. These continued actions cannot be understated. Our resources are limited, and this is not a fair fight. You guys outlevel us, and we're getting attacked. It's bullshit. Actually, I think there's one more after this. This is the last one. This is a big deal, and I feel deceived. This person from the Loth Fellowship also said he doesn't know about a deal about trying to stay out of the fight with us, which, again, this person is not the leader that we've been talking to the whole time. There was a shift that happened, which we'll talk about in a second. So I'm wondering what your position with Lothlorien truly is. They don't seem to know about any arrangement to allow Rune and Isengard to 1v1. Are you guys effing with us or just not communicating things clearly with everyone? Is blank, the leader or the guy he's talking to, stupid? Which one is it? I hope to have things cleared up so we can have fun this season and not feel like I'm getting effed over. Thanks. So I share that, A, because it's something that frustrated me and it is what it is. But B, the tone of like, this is great, we're gonna banter and have fights and it's fun, really shifted here to like some more accusatory things. I shouldn't have vouched your integrity, we're getting effed over. Like, it shifts a little bit, as you can hopefully see in kind of the you know, tension building with Rune. This is another leader in their group who I think this is the only screenshot I have of them because there's a lot of stuff, but I just wanted to point this out because I think it was funny, because I do think some members in their leadership agreed with us, because we're trying to figure out what to do, but we don't want to just stop fighting and take a 3-day break or 4-day break. That's really bad for morale and momentum for teams. And if you play this game, or Roulette especially, morale is like the most important thing. If you can keep it going, you can do crazy things. If it's down, it sucks, even if you're the stronger team. So this is their leader, one of their leaders, saying, I don't think it's fair for Isengard to pause the fighting. It lets us regroup at their expense. They're in the ascendancy, and we have worked and have worked hard to get there, just as we've worked hard to hold them off. However, our guys are feeling that we're being attacked on all sides, which was never our intention, nor was it Isengard's intention. So he's like, I don't think anyone's at fault here, but we shouldn't get to regroup at their expense. And like I like referenced this several times because we're like, this is how we feel. Like, can we go with this? But just wanted to throw that in there. This is another leader in their group who, there were 2 leaders. This one I probably had maybe the worst experience with. Just really made things difficult. And a couple of leaders, including this one, were told multiple times by their main leader to step out of diplomatic talks and to stop saying stuff because they're making it worse. So like they would come in and like make things worse, say a bunch of stuff, and then their leader would wake up and be like, hey, like, you stop, like you're making it worse. So this is them, and they said every time we bring up a concern, Isengard's leadership team seems intent on minimizing it. We point out again, we're not minimizing, like literally, like I just showed you, their leader, a leader in their group said this, and this is what we're saying and trying to figure out, and we're talking and trying to figure it out. But he's like, you guys are minimizing it. We point out level imbalance, which is an irrefutable fact, which, by the way, he starts talking about level imbalance as like that not being a fair thing, even though it's not. We never talked about that in our call and said like, we're only going to fight when we have fair levels. And can you imagine if you were like trying to be diplomatic and make a decision like with any group, and it had to do with like, we'll only fight you once we're all the equal levels, and if it gets unbalanced, like we're gonna, like if you win more, you're more active, you get more XP, whatever. Like tracking levels as a reason, like I don't even know why this got brought up in the first place, but they're upset the levels are off. We have a large battle pin with Gondor for many days, of course levels are ahead, but you instead try to minimize it, and you say, oh, your levels in Rune are so high. It's simply disingenuous. Again, not the case. We both had large whales in our groups that were above everybody, but they just pointed to like those players and were like, this, you see, everyone's here. And it's like, nope. At this point, I was literally like level 41. So again, just the levels thing was odd. The same applies when we mention we're being attacked. Every time we do, Isengard's leadership team marginalizes it. Oh, we're being attacked too by Gondor. You're not even being attacked enough for there to be a pin. We have multiple pins all over the map. We had some real Gondor players attacking us. Again, I think in trying to relate to what they're going through. But again, like we kind of said, we acknowledge this and we want to figure it out. It's just not at our expense to where we get in a really negative spot. Like it's a weird dance you're trying to do, because at the end of the day, we're trying to win too, but we're being honest about it. But again, that's just gone out the window. When we come with legitimate grievances and you guys literally try to tell us that nothing is wrong and it's a fair fight, is bad faith. Again, I've skimmed through these so many times. Never one time did we say nothing is wrong, this is a fair fight. So like they're just like pulling random things out that aren't being said. We're asking you to work with us in good faith. Stop trying to gaslight us, which, by the way, I figured out that the only people that try and gaslight people are people that use the word gaslight, because this also came out of nowhere. It's like, no one's trying to gaslight you. Like, we're trying to figure it out. Even your own leaders are some in your leaders are in agreement that like it shouldn't be at our expense. But then you send all of this, and it's like, this seems a little bit more like it to me, but like this is not the only time. This person brought up gaslighting multiple times. It's like, you're trying to gaslight us. It's like, no, nobody's doing that. I've lost over 50 200 plus tiles from Lotr and Erebor, just as reference, since our war's begun. The pins downplay the extent of the conflict between. They're just rampaging our lands. Again, the battle markers weren't really significant at all. So from our perspective, it did not look like, in a PvP perspective, like they were actually losing troops or having an issue. But that was our perspective. But again, I don't disagree that if you're just doing PvE and taking their tiles, that wouldn't be as seen. So it's a fair point. But all this stuff above here is just like really getting into it. There's a lot of back and forth between this and that. And again, we'd be like in the 6 hour, 7 hour mark, we went through it. Long story short, they went back and forth a lot and like just kept doing things. I'll show in a second what I said about this player, because I really felt like I'm someone who talks a lot too, so I get it. But I just feel like some of the stuff said didn't make sense to me, or very overcomplicated. It was one of the most odd experiences to have with someone. So anyway, fast forwarding a little bit for the sake of time, this is what I said, and this is kind of what we came to. I said, here's roughly what we're thinking. Obviously happy to go back and forth till we find something that sounds agreeable to all of us, but just sharing the ideas we have. So like, we're like, we want to figure this out. Here's the first proposal. Let's do it. And I said, I'm speaking on behalf of Bank, not Dant, so I'll let the Dant leader add his thoughts as well. A ceasefire is tough, even as your leader stated. I don't think it's fair on Isengard to pause and regroup at our expense. I already talked about that. Like, I kind of referenced what their leader said. It's like, see, like, can we agree? I continue. I say, I feel like that summarizes how we're feeling. We're not opposed to discussing a ceasefire, but I don't think having us pause for X amount of hours is really a great idea. We'll have members lose activity due to being bored, as well as momentum we've gained in the fight going away. Most players don't understand how complex Diplo can be, so some would view this, if not handled well, as a bad move and may just be done altogether. So we'd like to propose some territories in exchange for a ceasefire for either 48 or 72 hours. Again, fixing both the problems we're having makes a lot of sense to me, and reading back through, it still makes a lot of sense to me. Like we expressed before, the position on the map is not favorable to us at all, and the only reason it's not a bigger deal right now is because we're winning in the war at this moment. We currently have 0 territory touch in the ring, so we'd like to take Undeeps and SAV. Undeeps we're already in, and it seems illogical for us to backpedal, and SAV gives us a second spot around the ring to your 3, 4 if you take Eastbite. Us taking these also allows us to become a buffer between you guys and Loth, and if Loth is under new leadership and not honoring any agreements we made, we're more than happy to put them in their place. This gives you guys time to move, regroup, deal with Erebor, diplomatically or otherwise, etc. We would then pick a time that the ceasefire ends, not necessarily when the fighting begins, because I don't like the idea of a super predictable fight we count down to. Also, just the first idea, so if we can think of other ones, send those as well. So again, literally saying, let us have 2 territories by the ring to your almost 4. One of the 2 groups that attacking you will become a meat shield for you, and if they don't stop, we will attack them. So you have 1 group to deal with diplomatically or otherwise, and you have 3 days to do so, and then the ceasefire will end, and we'll let things resume. Honest to God, I think this is still like the most reasonable deal that went out this season, but they weren't interested in it, and it was baffling to me. Again, lots of screenshots we could throw. Long story short, they did not want to give up territories because we were winning, and they wanted the fair fight because they were losing. So they wanted the fair thing we talked about with 1v1, but when we said we do too, can we balance it out on both sides and then really have this fight the way it was supposed to be? It was just no, because you guys are going to take these anyway down the road, we think, so it doesn't matter. So it was just, they wanted to talk about fairness, but only to certain things, and just were unwilling and just felt like they couldn't sell giving up territories. Just like we're like, we can't sell a ceasefire without anything. Like, it's just not going to work. But again, it is what it is. That's the deal we tried to propose. Part 7, and we're trucking along here. Hang with me. No more Rune agreement. So this is the leader of Rune right here at the very top. Again, trying to keep it a little bit cleaner. This is them saying, other thing we can do, this is after I've sent mine, other thing we can do is just let things go. We let things progress organically. Whoever joins the war, joins the war. We don't worry about who's fighting whom, and we just see what happens. It didn't get seen right away, so they replied to it and said, referring to this message, we could just let things be. I know most in the server want in on the fighting, and we could just let things happen. We fight who we must, and we see what happens. Most factions have lost activity and are mostly just nuisances, so whoever helps either side won't make a huge difference. Let's just let it play out. We don't anger our own teams, and we do what we must. So kind of like, this is becoming frustrating. We can't deal with it. Let's just end things. Which makes sense. But if you remember what we talked about, Gondor, who was another, who was another significant player in the server, who had surrendered to us, these messages are after that surrender had happened, and our warning bells are going off. It's like, this just sounds like we can't come to an agreement that's beneficial more on your side. So I think you guys are going to bring Gondor into this. So that was our suspicion, and we continue on with this. This is them again. I went back and I said, so is this final decision? I don't love it, but it's easiest for you guys kind of get going on. They said, the leader, they said, I think for both sakes and for our teams, it's just an easier option. It won't be an easy fight, and we'll have to sort things out. We're not breaking agreements anymore or not having to rehash all these variables. We just let things season, because we just let things happen, because trying to control so many things, it's very difficult. This has been the friendliest fighting I've had in many seasons with you guys, and I want that to continue. Lots of good banter and camaraderie from both sides, and nothing has to change that. And I said, sounds like a plan, and agreed. This has been a lot of fun, and we hope it continues. So our agreement with Rune ends. So we're still gonna be at war, but there's no, like, gloves are off. And this is the tone it ended on. Again, things got a little heated and then dialed back, and we're breaking the deal, but it ends on a good note. Like, we're in their Discord, we're still friendly, all that good stuff. But it doesn't stay there for long either. Next up, just like I kind of foreshadowed, Gondor does join Rune. So again, this was frustrating for us because Gondor surrendered to us, and then you surrender, you've surrendered. But we kind of left them the ability to unsurrender just because we left them with land and all that kind of stuff. So Gondor unsurrenders and joins Rune in the war. We actually saw movements happening, I think was that one of the crossings that leads up towards Isengard? I can't remember which exact one. But basically, we saw the movements and messaged Gondor, and we're like, hey, why are you guys building up at this crossing and have a fellowship fortress? And they're like, oh, just defense, if we need it. And we're like, don't think so. And again, long story short, The Gondor guys, I will say, we've actually gotten really close to a lot of them. A lot of them joined us. I think there were some leadership changes, so I get it. They just want to be active, but from our perspective, it was frustrating. And I will say, they never really didn't shoot us straight. Like they were honest, and they even said, hey, if we do start attacking, we were going to give you guys plenty of heads up. Like it wasn't going to be a shady thing. And so I will say on their behalf, they at least shot us straight. But the back and forth was the frustrating part with a ceasefire or a surrender. Now, since Gondor has joined Rune and they're attacking us, we're going to go attack Gondor's capital again. So Rune is up here trying to move around. They're trying to deal with Erebor and Lotr again, who we had, offered to be their own meat shield and do it, but they would not accept that. So they had to deal with their stuff. We took advantage of that time and we beelined it to Gondor's capital. And long story short, we did take Gondor's capital, just trying to basically put that down right away and just say, nope, like that's fine. You guys want to unsurrender, but now we get your capital, and we're trying to not let two stronger groups build up and get momentum against us, because that would have been a lot to hold off. So now we're back to the Isengard versus Rune show. And again, I wish I could say it was just friendly and, everybody loved everybody the whole time. Again, I will say player to player wise, that was the case. So hopefully no one is watching from that group and is like, oh my gosh, you're just getting crapped on. The issues I had came with like how certain leadership talked to us or did things. Really, like up to this point, it kind of sucked, but like we were okay at this point. It's the next stuff I'm going to show you again in summary. The next stuff that really left a sour taste in our mouth for the leadership of the group in room that we played against. So this is one of the things. Just to give you an example, we've ended on good terms, and their leaders like, hey, the good band, this is all great. Like this is the best group. This is in world chat. They're talking to Loth and saying, this is someone in Rune leadership, by the way. They say, I'm sorry, Loth leadership doesn't have smart leaders to give facts. And let's be honest, we are aware the lies bank leaders have tried to give Variags. So again, just kind of a weird accusation. We're trying to fight and things be good. And we have a leader in their group saying, we know bank leaders are lying to people. And so EQ posted in their Discord and says, hey, I would like this clarified. What did we lie about? This is the person who's been using too many words the whole time, who like was just very odd. And they never like answered questions when they were asked. They always would ask other questions, or like just, it was bizarre. So I would like this clarified. And they say, if you had to guess what you or other leaders said to Variags that might cause this response, does anything come to mind? Is Isengard's position that it has been 100% honest at all times with Variags? So we're answering questions with questions, and just that like, hey, what does this mean? What have we lied about? Because we haven't, and we're not happy to hear this. And then we're responded by, what do you think it means? And you're like, what? Like, what? This isn't a group therapy session. We're asking what we've lied about that your leadership group feels strongly enough about to post in world chat. And that's the response we get. Then this continues, and I'll take some fault in this one and kind of the next one. I didn't start these things, but I definitely was a little bit, I kept it going a little bit more than I was super proud of. So I will own that. I'm not perfect, and especially in diplomacy, it gets frustrating. Again, you can't see it, but a leader, the same leader actually, to be honest, also made a fort that said, get good, weak AF, which is not the most extreme fort name I've ever seen. And you might be like, oh my gosh, this is nothing. But it came from leadership, and we had tried to leave things on good terms, and tensions were kind of high. So seeing leadership make work, again, this was after he beat someone, and it was just like, I felt it was very unnecessary. Is the fort by itself an issue? No. Is all the situation and context and it being a leader? That was the issue. So I posted this. I said, I see we're using our big words now at whatever, which again, off the bat, I was frustrated a little bit, and I probably could have said, hey, guys, can we not do this? It's not helpful. But I was like, I see we're using our big words now. Extremely disappointing to see leadership act like this. And then they added me back. This is that person who's in leadership. Do you need friends to talk to? Because I'm not the one. So leave me alone. I thought you said you could understand fort trolling, but apparently only when it suits you. Go play the game and don't tag me again. They were not happy with me calling them out, which again, I do like a little bit of banter. To me, banter and trolling are different things. And I don't know if weak AF, get good is where that lands for you. Honestly, the fort name by itself isn't an issue to me. It's the fact that it's leadership, and we've already had this leader in world chat, and now making fort names. It's just not helpful. So I said, oh no, did I upset you? Again, I'm owning it. I didn't help in this situation. No, just annoyed, but I upset you. And I said, who said I'm upset? Again, frustrated, upset, whatever I was at the time. They said, you're wasting time. And I said, it's laughable how you and many others continue to act. Again, from a leadership point, I was very frustrated with the leadership capacity of it. Then he said, triggered now, boy. And I said, again, who's triggered? Couldn't be in a better mood with you ranting like a child. And they said, just shut up. It's okay. It's a little funny because I called them a child and they said, just shut up, which like, shut up is like one of the things like kids say all the time. So it's kind of made me laugh too. So I said, oh no. I said, oh, now you said the magic words. Again, I don't know. I was like in a mood a little bit more feisty about it. They said, let me rant. I'm not the one who came in here. I can name my forts the way I want. At least now you answer. Glad I didn't wait for in-game and just let you go. Side note, he had messaged me in-game before the season started and basically said like, hey man, like glad to be playing with you. Love the videos, love the content. I did not see it. Honest to God, it was a mistake. And I don't reply to every single DM I get because I get a lot of them. Like I'm not trying to act like I'm like a huge celebrity, but I get a lot of people DMing me. And when like we're in season, Diplo's going on, I'm talking to our team, sometimes stuff falls through the cracks. So he was not happy that I did not message back, which I kind of sassed him. I was like, sorry, I didn't see that and respond to you right away. Like I'm, yada, yada, yada. So he responded. I said, so up there, I said, sorry, I hurt your feelings by not responding to your comments. It wasn't intentional. They said, I don't usually troll, but hey, I ain't the one who came here, which again, this is a leadership chat. This isn't like a place to troll. Like I came here with an issue. I wasn't trying to troll. When people say all day just shows that they are triggered. I definitely don't troll much. I just like to be remembered when I do, which was like, okay. And I said, again, you give yourself way too much credit. I'm not triggered. Just happened to see your fort. Hey, hold on. I'll get to this in a second because this gets good. It gets really good. So this is this. And we go back and forth a little bit, just kind of jabbing each other a little bit. And I will take part. I'll take, okay, I didn't start it because he made the fort, but beyond that, I will take equal responsibility for not de-escalating it. I'm cool to do that. I will say on this person's behalf, they did message me on Discord and they did apologize for their part of it. I did the same, kind of said, hey, it's all good. They weren't prompted to do so. And they were just like, I got carried away. I get frustrated. And I was like, hey, me too. Like, we're human. We're guys. Like, I get it. No, it's not the end of the world. But again, just trying to show this is like the war is going back on and tensions are rising. We are being accused of things. This is 24 hours later. And this is the person that uses so many words. And it's just been like, we're saying they're trying to gaslight us. 24 hours after this is resolved and nothing has been said here. We're just trying to like get on with it. This guy jumps in and he says, I've come to learn this season that all things Middle Earth streaming persona and his trolling off-stream persona, very different people. And I just wanted to be like, no shit, Sherlock. Do you think I'm going to go into Diplo rooms and be like, what's up, guys? All things Middle Earth here with some diplomacy for you. Like, make sure you like hit the like button. Like streaming and trying to entertain people or play the game is so different from diplomacy. It was just a funny thing to read because I was like, what did you expect when I joined this? That I was just going to be this airheaded streamer? Like, again, as you've seen, a lot of the things I've typed, we're trying to be thoughtful and work through it. So again, the problem is resolved. This guy brings it back up, and I honestly, I don't follow Ellen enough to. I think maybe Ellen is not as nice as she is on the show, and she's a mean person or something. I don't know, but like this, I'm not in Ellen lore, so I didn't know for sure. But I think that's what they were trying to make. But they just brought it up. This is my response to it, so I didn't help as well either. But I said I've come to learn that this person is a 3-year-old using chat GPT to make himself sound smarter. We've all got our secrets. Because all his stuff just sounds like he types out something and then he puts it in chat GPT and he says, make this sound more complicated. And chat GPT is like, okay. Da, 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 da. And he's like, no, more. Like, just add more big words. Because like they didn't make sense. And it just sounded like he was trying to really overcomplicate things. And it just sounded like someone who was just like over cranking it with complicated. So like that was my impression of this player. We go back and forth. Again, he sent like 4 or 5 Ellen gifts and told me to dance for him, and he just like thought it was so funny, and I'm just like, okay. And at this point, once stuff had started getting a little spicy, I was like, we're probably gonna do a recap video on this. So I said, it's okay, I've got screenshots of everything, so everyone can make their own decisions on how they feel about wine, which by the way is the group that we played against. It's already been in here, and if you watch streams at all, it's not like it's a secret, so I'm not gonna try and hide that. Again, I'm not talking about the wine group as a whole. I'm talking about the leadership experience that we had, and they've since merged into another group anyway. On how they feel wine has handled things. Really a shame because things could have gone much better. Just sad because you're making your entire team look bad. And I'm not sure other leaders will come in here soon and message me separately. And I'm sure other leaders will come in here soon or message me separately trying to cover for you, but I'm over the immaturity. Because every time that this person or the other guy had gotten like really worked up, I got a DM from some other leader being like, hey, sorry for them, you know, or their main leader came in here and said at whoever, this person, stop, you know, like they had to get called away multiple times, which I also think was kind of funny. So we go back and forth, and I have never seen someone backpedal so hard. As soon as I said, hey, this is cool, man, like I got screenshots of this, like I can show how you're acting. I never have seen someone backpedal so hard of like, what? I have to take responsibility. Like I'm in leadership and I have to take responsibility for what I've said, and it might reflect my team. And he like starts freaking out. He literally leaves the game. Not kidding you. I don't know if he's still playing or not. I hope he is. Like this would be a silly thing to leave over, but like just to show you the shift in like sending multiple Ellen gifts and being like, dance all things for Earth. You're so ridiculous, to being like, wait, what? I will be held accountable for what I said potentially. Oh, I quit. I don't want to do this. But he said, listen, everyone, I'm going to leave the game. I've had a lot of banter over my time in this game. And sure, people talk shit and threaten, but I've never seen someone escalate, never seen something escalate like this to threats of defaming a third party to the extent threatened here. It feels like a hostage taking, and it caught me completely off guard. It's not a game I want to be a part of. I saw the banter you were dishing with that player earlier, that was yesterday, and figured my comments followed in the same vein, which, side note, if you read through that, like it was an argument, like it was a fight, seems dramatic, but like neither one of us was like bantering and going back and forth. Like we were not happy with each other. So he thought it was the same. He jumped in. If it offended you guys, seriously, not my intention, and my apologies. Even though it's just a game, I know how much the leader cares about this team and how much they put of themselves into it. And it isn't fair for me to tarnish that or be a part of its malignant. I only have seen them act in good faith in the 4th season we play together. As I said before, this cross line I'm not comfortable with, and I'm just fully removing myself from the equation for you all forever. Best of luck to each of you. Isengard, enjoy the highly probability of attaining your ring. So again, in diplomatic chats or anything, when people have no accountability or it's, you know, whatever, like literally like posting gifs of Ellen DeGeneres and like making fun of me. And then the minute I'm like, hey, like I literally commented in there, I was like, this is great content for the thing. Thank you. Like this is fun. And the minute that kind of was like, oh my, wait, people might see how I'm acting, which I'm still censoring his name. Like it's not the end of the world, but like, I'm not interested in having people like go out and try and get people. But like, again, that was like, that's how bizarre it got. So now we're going to try and wrap things up very quickly because we're going to be coming on an hour here, but I'm getting in one part at least. So like, there's that. Long story short, again, just to show kind of the tensions that rise, was like, I wanted to show all that. Long story short, we keep fighting and Rune surrenders the ring to us. They message leader messages and basically says, hey, let's face it. Like at this point, we've kept pushing them back. We've dealt with Gondor again. And they're like, hey, we know we can't do this. So we make an agreement. We type it all up basically. And we say, hey, we accept, we're going to take territories around the ring. So it's secure. That's fair. Right. And we were going to PvP in Dorwinion. Again, it was like sort of close to the end, but like those who wanted to fight could still fight. We were going to PvP in Dorwinion. I sent them a map. I posted to our group, all these things. And they're like, yep, this sounds good. And they asked us and they said, hey, can you leave all of our tiles in these regions around the ring? You can take the regions, but can you leave our tiles so we still have resources so we can all PvP together? And again, very foolishly, we were like, sure. What could go wrong? We think they're done. We know we're winning. This is fine. Let's PvP in Dorwinion. And then almost immediately after that, and ongoing during this conversation, while we're sending maps and our announcements and being very transparent, they're voting in their group on whether or not they're going to push over the mountains and go attack Loth, or I think Arnor is the target at this point, who had, again, been over here, and they apparently do not like Arnor at all. But we're like, yeah, we can do that. We'll leave your tiles so we can fight. Let's go to Doranian, and Arnor, who's kind of in this alliance friendly thing we're in, is over here, and they push over the mountains and just try to beeline all the way to Arnor's capital after we agreed that they're conceding the ring and we're gonna fight in there. Again, if they wanted to concede it and say we're gonna fight other places, it'd be fine. But they used the kind of like conceding of the ring as a means to basically buy themselves time to go pull something else, which I felt, again, very just dishonest and weird. So at this point too, we push over and we take Erebor's capital, because Erebor had since joined and allied with Rune. And so when a lot of the fighting was happening with Rune, which was all the way up into Gunabad and down to their territories. Erebor is in here and they're attacking as well. We need another capital, and Rune has kind of expressed interest in protecting small groups, and then they go over and attack Arnor over here, who's much less powerful than them. So we're like, cool, we're going to beeline it for Erebor, and then eventually, hopefully for Kindland, but we're going to like keep on the offensive and see if we can get you guys back down here. So we push over and we take Erebor's capital, and then we push down and we're going to put pressure on Kindland because, again, that just kind of made sense to us that if we keep offensive and keep pushing, that will pull them back so they're not attacking other people. Then Rune surrenders again, and they're like, okay, this time for real, we are done. You guys have beat us. We're tired. The season has like a week left or whatever. It's over. And we're like, okay, freaking finally. And we made up another map. We're going to PvP in Karok. Everyone can be involved in it. Yada, yada, yada. And then what do? Rune pushes to attack Lothlorien. Now, this wasn't the whole group. And from my understanding, at this point, the group was in shambles. But we've got all these forts that are saying cheeky PvP, weak AS, PvP, PvP. They're mocking the whole PvP thing they set up. And they've got a fellowship fortress going, which again, apparently the leader that did that wasn't supposed to, blah, blah, blah. And so they surrender, and then this happens. We asked them to respond to it. I even asked their leader, which was like, I think you should remove those players from your fellowship until they get their forts out of there, because they're acting outside of an agreement that we made. But they refused to do that. So we had to react. And that's when we basically stopped our, third surrender or whatever. And we kept pushing Kindland. And then they're like, what are you guys doing? Why are you pushing Kindland? And we're like, because you guys can't keep a deal to save your life. Like every deal we've made this season has bit us in the butt somehow. So we push towards Kindland, and long story short, we push back and forth, and we ended up fighting at Greater Rune. So there's a crossing right, I think it was this one. We were fighting at between Seldwyn Vale and Greater Rune, which is a territory connected to their capital. The season ends up finishing at this crossing, and that's how we wrapped up. And finally, I think people became inactive. Loth ended up cleaning up over here. Some of the players stopped. They just leave the fort. They kind of cleaned it up, but it was just this exhausting back and forth. Again, we got the ring. I will put on the map right now the kind of time lapse of the whole season so you guys can see how this played out visually. So I'll put that on the screen right now. But there you have it. Again, after editing, this is going to be close to an hour, so I try to make it as quick as possible. But that is a recap of our season in the drama. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Again, not an easy way to do this, or not a quick way to do it, I should say. And there's a lot I left out. There was a lot more drama stuff happening. Gondor was not happy with Rune after their alliance. The entire time they were unhappy and actually almost flipped and attacked them. The whole time Rune protested. They didn't care about rewards. They just wanted to have good fights. But then they made decisions and tried to keep rewards, and even to the point where this Angmar group, who ended up flipping as well, Angmar and Linden ended up flipping and fighting us too, which we didn't even cover at all. Angmar attacked us, Linden attacked us. They almost refused to give Angmar a capital, and Gondor pretty much said, hey, if you don't honor your word and give them a single capital like you said, so you guys can get more rewards, we're going to attack you too. And again, they ended up doing it. But it was a disaster, and I am so glad it's done. I'm so excited to go into next season. Again, player to player wise, this was an awesome season, awesome fights, and we had great success. But from a leadership perspective, I don't think I've ever had an experience with a group where more deals went back and forth and back and forth. And again, accusations, just things getting out of hand. Again, I added to some of the drama. I showed that. I'm honest. Again, you get worked up. You're kind of going back and forth, and I was being a smartass, So I accept that. It is what it is. At the end of the day, does it matter? It's just a game. And if this is upsetting someone a crazy amount in real life to this day, that's probably not the game for them. But that is the season recap. Let me know what you guys think of it, and I will see you in the next video.